Hello book lovers, welcome to my channel. My name is Kay if you're new here, and I thought it was high time that I needed to do a Meet the Booktuber tag. I know technically my BookTube page is well over a year old, however it was very short-lived, and now that it is going through a revival, I thought I would share more about myself to my new friends that are around here, so stay tuned. I found a list of 10 questions that are on the typical BookTube Newbie tag that circulates around YouTube. But first I wanted to share just a little bit about myself before getting into all of the BookTube and Bookish types of questions. My name is Kay. I am from Ohio. I live in Ohio. My parents got divorced when I was pretty young, so I also consider Tennessee home to me too, as well as Ohio, because I kind of grew up in both places with my dad living there and my mom living here in Ohio. I am 26 at the present moment in 2025. My birthday is June 2nd. If anybody wants to know if you're a June 2nd baby, put it in the comments so we can connect. I have been married for 5 years now. My husband and I got engaged in 2019, late 2019. So we were super excited for planning a wedding, and then 2020, COVID, all the pandemic stuff happened, and we messaged our pastor and we were just kind of like, are we crazy if we just want to elope because we don't know where the world is going or what it's going to be like or when we'll be able to have an actual wedding. So he was like, heck yeah, you don't need a party for a wedding. So we just met up with my pastor at our church and we eloped in April of 2020. We finally had our wedding reception in 2022. In 2023, we welcomed my son who was born. His name is Zion. He's named after Mount Zion in the Bible. He is just an absolute joy. That's just kind of a little bit about me and my family life. I really love to be creative. I am a part-time hairstylist. I love reading, writing. I'm currently learning to draw for the first time in my life because I'm writing my first novel, and I think it would be so fun to illustrate my first novel cover. I love using the Cricut machine. I love cooking. I love baking. I just love anything creative. God just totally made me a creative person. I honestly think we're all creative people because I believe that we are all made in God's image and God is the creator, and therefore just by nature we are creative, and I just think that is such a blessing that the Lord has given us. Speaking of the Lord, I didn't really grow up in the church. I kind of went to church with friends and then the local youth group on Wednesday nights. However, I was never consistent with that. I truly dedicated my life to God when I was 18 years old. I got baptized in 2018, and it has just been the biggest blessing of my life, and God has just truly provided for me over these years and shown me that His way is the better way. So I think that's all I really want to say about myself. If you have anything in common with any of that, please let me know. So let's go ahead and jump into the questions. Question 1 is, why did you start this channel? So I'm technically revamping my channel, and that is because I love Jesus and I love books, and I know there are other Christians that also love fiction stories, and there are tons of nonfiction books that are out there on the market, and honestly there are tons of fiction books too, but I feel like they don't get as much of the limelight, so to speak, next to the secular books, and I just really want this to be a space where other Christians can come and find good fiction, Christian or clean books with me. Not every single book is going to be specifically Christian or Christian author. They will all be clean and all God-honoring books. I just want to help other people with my same convictions to find books that you're comfortable reading. And if you haven't seen my video on why I'm starting to clean my bookshelves and switch to Christian fiction and clean fiction. Feel free to go back and watch that. I'll link it either in the description or on the page. Question 2. What are some unique things that you can bring to BookTube? So I think one of the unique things is obviously my faith in God and me being a Christian. I know there are quite a lot of Christian booktubers out there. However, I am still so new to discovering that, and I think it's so awesome that so many of us have this on our hearts to come on here and share that. But I also think that everybody has a different story. So when we are all reading books, we look at the stories through our personal lens, through our experiences. So something might be a 1-star to me, but it might be a 5-star to you. But that's just because we all have a different story to tell ourselves. And for me, specifically in the Christian community, not that it's the most unique thing in the world, but the fact that I wasn't truly saved and baptized until I was 18, I just have a lot of things that I used to feel a lot of shame about, and lots of trauma and things like that I now as an adult that Jesus has delivered me from. But through reading these stories of people that struggle with these types of things, I feel like I can relate a lot to those situations and be sensitive to certain topics. And not that that's the most unique thing in the world, but I feel like that's one of the things that the Lord has set me apart to be able to share and to tell, to have a welcoming space for other people that might have similar things in their past as me. Question number 3. What are you most excited about for this new channel? So I put new revamped channel because I'm still using the same page, but I'm excited to be able to get closer to the Lord through the stories that I'm reading and recommending. I think first and foremost, that is the most important thing, is our journey and our walk with God and our relationship with the Lord. Having a sense of community with other book-loving Christians is something I am way excited about. I absolutely love books, and talking about them is something that I could do all day long, so I'm so excited about the community. Question number 4 is, why do you love reading? Reading has always been a safe space for me to kind of slow down. It's been a relaxing and like peaceful thing for me. Most of the time, obviously, if there's like war going on in the book or one of your favorite characters dies, it's maybe not super peaceful, but I digress. Sometimes stories just help me feel understood, especially with my past, and they've helped me not feel so alone, and like I'm not the only person that has gone through certain things, that has also been able to overcome them. And I also love that reading opens my eyes to different worlds and perspectives that I may not have known about before or really taken into consideration. I love being able to learn. The next question is, when did you start reading? So this is an interesting question because that could mean a lot of things. Obviously, we learned to read here in America in elementary school, preschool, but middle school is the first time I read a book for enjoyment, and that was actually these 2 books that I have held on to because they have been such a huge part of my reading journey. And the first one is Immortal by Gillian Shields. So I do still have my original copy. I got this at a Scholastic book fair in the 6th grade. I would love to actually reread this because I haven't read it since middle school, but it was my all-time, like, the thing that pulled me into reading. I don't know how I'd feel about it now, but I was comfortable reading it at the age of, what are you in 6th grade, like 10? I was comfortable reading it then, but this is about a girl who is sent to an academy, and she discovers like elemental magic there, so fire, water, air, and earth. And I know there are some like ghosty things in this, so that's why I'm like, I don't know how I'd feel about that anymore. But there is like a romance, but it's very clean. I don't think there's any curse words or anything like that. Again, it was at a Scholastic book fair and I was super comfortable reading this, but I would love to read it again just to see if it holds up in my heart to the story that it was then. In the other series, this was the one that really got me into it, was The Hunger Games. This is the original book that I had. I read this one, the whole series, in 7th grade. This was the movie, when the movie was coming out. This is the covers that they ended up having. I remember buying this in Walmart. We went and watched this movie in theater with the 7th grade class because we read this as a class book, which I thought was awesome. I don't know if it would be allowed to be read anymore because so many books just get banned from schools, but The Hunger Games, all-time favorite, will always have a place in my heart. I still need to read Hamish's story, which I think is Sunrise on the Reaping, so I plan to get to that soon and I'm really excited about it. But this is one of the only series I have read more than once. I think I've been through it 3 times, with one physically reading it and then just doing audiobooks. But what's actually really funny is I kind of stopped reading after high school. In high school, I was super into like John Green and those kinds of books, but it wasn't until 2019 that I got into reading again, and that was with Harry Potter. So this is a middle grade, but I had this inkling to read this and read this whole series, and it took me forever to get through it, but it is one of my all-time favorite series. I love it so much, and I want to reread this whole series again. But I know that some Christians have different convictions and things when it comes to the magic and things like that in Harry Potter, but I say honestly, listen to your convictions and the things that you are personally tempted by or things that don't sit well in your soul. I say that I have a Holy Spirit radar, that when something really isn't right and I'm really not meant to be entertaining something, my Holy Spirit radar kind of goes off and is like, no, this is wrong, you shouldn't be reading this or whatever. And that is why I've switched a lot of my books now to Christian fiction. But Harry Potter is going to have a place in my heart as an adult, as a book that has set off me with my love for reading. The next question is, what kind of books do you like to read? So I literally just shared with you 3 fantasy books, but I read pretty much every single genre. I'm not huge in the horror, gore. I've never been big in those kinds of books, but I do like the good mystery or psychological thriller. I love fantasy, huge fantasy fan. I have taken a huge break from it the past almost year. I feel like I really haven't read much just because of the secular fantasy. However, I have so much Christian fantasy I'm excited to dive into. And then I love rom-coms. I love rom-coms. I know they can be super cheesy, but you know what? I'm here for the cheese. When it comes to rom-coms, I am the person with the Olive Garden person who's grinding the Parmesan. I'm never gonna say when it comes to cheese in rom-coms. I also love historical fiction. I love historical romances. When it comes to historical war books like World War II and World War I and things like that, I really need to be in the right mindset to read that kind of stuff because it really can bring me down. However, I think those are really important stories. And I also just recently got into a few historical, like biblical historical fiction books, and that's been really fun to dive into. So you can expect just a plethora of different genres here. I also just love women's fiction where maybe there's not romance in it, or just, you know, plain contemporary fiction in general. There will literally be all the kinds of genres that you can imagine. Now, I will say I'm a seasonal reader, so I love to read spring books in the spring, fall books in the fall, but also certain genres just go with those times for me. So we're coming up here into the fall, and you'll probably see me in the mood for a lot more mystery and fantasy. But then once spring and summer comes, I'm huge into the rom-coms and the romances and the contemporaries. I will read a mix throughout the year just based off of what I'm in the mood for, but I feel like that is generally what I gravitate to during those times of the year. I also think it's super important to note that faith comes before fiction. So I try to make it a huge habit every day to read my Bible and spend time with God before I'm picking up other books, because I have in the past, it's been very easy to put just these fiction and fun books before God, and that is a big no-no. So I am really trying to do faith before fiction? The next question I'm honestly not a huge fan of. I feel like it's kind of weird. The question is, where do you read? Because I feel like readers, we just read everywhere. So I bring my Kindle with me no matter where I go because I never know when there's a chance I'll be able to pull out my book. So sometimes I read in the car, like if I'm waiting for my prescription at the CVS drive-thru or something like that, I'll pull out my Kindle then. Sometimes I'm reading here at home, just in my bed, in a cozy chair. I love reading outside, sitting on the porch when the weather is good too. I literally just read everywhere. I feel like many readers would have that same answer. The next question is, what does your book collection look like? And I'm gonna put a pin in that one because at the end I'm gonna just go through and give you a little bookshelf tour. The next question is fun. It is questions to ask your favorite booktubers. So I have two, and I am so thankful and grateful for the booktube friends that I have made over the past several weeks that have been coming here and watching my videos and supporting. So I just want to say a huge thank you to you. Thank you for your guidance and provision and your help and your support and your encouragement to me. So my two questions for you, if you are a booktuber, is one, this is the more serious question, which book has impacted you and your faith journey the most? Second question is the fun question, what fictional character would you love to invite for coffee? The last question in the tag is, what challenges with starting a YouTube channel do you foresee yourself facing, or that will be the hardest to overcome? And so for me, it is that I am a toddler mom. My son is going to be 2 in less than a month, which is insane. Obviously, he is going to come first. My husband comes first over this. So if my son is sick or something, I might not be able to film that much that week because I'll be caring for him. However, I do think I have a pretty good schedule figured out that will work generally for the most part. So my initial plan is to post every Friday. So I'm filming on Mondays, editing throughout the whole week, and then uploading and having it posted by Friday morning. Not quite a huge challenge, so to speak, because I know lots of other moms who do booktube and YouTube and that kind of stuff, but I think the biggest thing will just be, obviously my family is going to come first, and I will be sure to let you guys know if there's ever a week that I can't post for whatever reason. Now let's get to that bookshelf tour. So I'm still currently getting rid of a lot of my old collection, so some of my bookshelf is a little messy. Without further ado, let me go ahead and show you. So there was a library sale a few weeks ago and I bought a ton of Karen Kingsbury books because I'd never read her before, but they were like 50 cents or $1. So they were pretty stinking affordable, so I bought those. And then I have the Francine Rivers collection. I have 2 copies of Redeeming Love because one I bought years ago when I read it for the first time, and then another one, my really great friend got me a copy of it last year and it's signed by Francine Rivers, which is just amazing. And then I kind of have this sorted by biblical historical fiction. So these first 4 books, from Counted with the Stars to The Pharisee's Wife, that's like biblical historical fiction, whether it's taking place during the time of Christ, right before, or right after. And then it's just moving into regular historical fiction. Then on this next shelf, I kind of have historical fiction, but it's like romance. This is like all historical fiction, romance. And then down the line, we kind of just have some contemporary books that might not be romance, and then a mix of a ton of rom-coms here. And then right below, we have my collection of mystery, thriller type of books. So over here we have the fantasy books that I am so excited to get into. Then we have Rebecca Ross, which, if you didn't know, she is a believer in Christ. However, I don't think these are considered Christian. I've read 3 of her books. Divine Rivals, Ruthless Vows are for sure my favorite. Moving down, we have just more fantasy fiction. So the Hunger Games, of course, Hunger Games is missing because I just pulled that off the shelf. Kiss of Deception. I have both of the hardbacks and paperbacks because I love this series so much. It's by Mary E. Pearson. I think I would still recommend this to Christian readers. She is not a Christian that I'm aware of, but it is fantasy. However, I genuinely can't remember any magic being in that series. It's more so just futuristic, but things have been destroyed, so they're living like they would have in a historical time. It's very, very interesting. And I have Stephanie Garber, so the Caravel and the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. I love, love, love those. I feel like I would still recommend those. However, each Christian should obviously use their own discretion. And then down here is just some more general YA fiction. Then we've got Brandon Sanderson over here. I've only read Tress of the Emerald Sea. Absolutely love it. Would recommend that to everybody. It's very clean. And then The Way of Kings, I've started. I got 200 pages in. It's like a 1,400 page book, and I just was not in the mental state for that. And then down here we just have more. So as you can see, I have a ton of different genres and categories. Like I said, I am a huge fantasy lover, so I'm really excited to get into these more clean fantasy books. And then in my other room, I have some more books. I have some classics. Some of my favorites are Little Women, Pride and Prejudice. I haven't read a ton of these. I read Anna Karenina by Tolstoy earlier this year, and I loved it. That book is just drama. And then I have some historical fiction. I have my writing books over here. So these are just sources for me when I'm writing if I want to look up some help. And then over here, I just have my Christian nonfiction, which isn't a lot because it's not my favorite thing to read. I know some C.S. Lewis is fiction and not nonfiction, but this is what I have there. I have yet to go through all of my middle grades. However, there's a whole stack here, and behind these stacks, I have other stacks. Absolutely love Nevermore. I would love to read that one again. And then for funsies, here is my son's book collection. It's kind of a mess because he loves to just pull them off the shelves. But he has tons of books, and I'm hoping he's a reader too, so we can have library dates. So there we have it, the BookTube newbie tag. Thank you so much for watching this. If we have anything in common, please let me know below. And if you made it to this far, please leave a yellow heart under the video. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe, comment, like, all that kind of stuff. It really does just help my channel, and it's going to help it reach other Christians that might be looking for some good Christian fiction book recommendations too. You guys have a great week, and I will see you next Friday.